world you knew just moments ago has begun to fade, its sharp edges softening, and its vibrant colors dissolving into the deep, quiet indigo of a night that has no end. You are no longer standing in the frantic rush of passing time, but at the very edge of an ancient and profound silence, where the air is cool and the stars have been waiting for you to look up. Tonight, the heavy, cluttered weight of the day is being replaced by something much older and far more patient, a silver thread of history that stretches back to the very first dawn of man. You can feel the transition in the way the atmosphere around you settled, as if the room itself is sighing, releasing the tension of the hours gone by and welcoming the arrival of a vast, velvet stillness. There is nothing left for you to do, nowhere else you need to be, and no problems that require your attention. You are stepping into a sanctuary built of shadow and starlight, a place where the logic of the waking world no longer applies. Listen closely to the stillness that surrounds you now. It is not an empty silence, but a living breath, filled with the soft echoes of a time when the earth and the heavens spoke the same language. We are preparing to travel back through the mist of centuries to an era of gold and starlight, following the quiet, invisible footsteps of Astraea, the last goddess to leave our soil. But before we step into her world, notice how your own environment has been transformed by the mere thought of her presence. Your room is no longer just a room. It has become a sacred space of rest, a clearing in the woods of time, where the air carries the faint, nostalgic scent of ripening grain and the cold purity of distant mountains. The mattress beneath you is no longer just a bed, but is as steady and unshakable as the bedrock of ancient Greece, holding you with a strength that requires no effort from your part. You are safe, you are held, and the long, shimmering story of the stars is about to begin. As you lie here, let your mind drift upward toward that great dark canopy where the constellations perform their slow, eternal dance. The sky is not a distant void, but a familiar roof, a protective layer that has watched over every generation before us. Imagine the darkness not as a lack of light, but as a warm, heavy blanket of peace that covers the entire world. In this space, the concept of a minute or an hour loses its meaning. There is only the rhythmic pulse of the universe and the slow, steady hum of the stars as they burn with a light that took hundreds of years to reach your eyes. This light is a bridge, connecting your present moment to the ancient nights when philosophers and farmers alike looked up and found the same comfort you are finding now. It is a light that does not glare or demand. It only suggests a path through the quiet. The story we are about to enter is one of balance and grace. A memory of a time when the world was in its infancy, and the divine walked hand in hand with the mortal. Astraea was the embodiment of that balance, a maiden of light who saw the beauty in the smallest grain of wheat and the grandest sweep of the galaxy. She is still there, written in the stars of Virgo, holding her scales and her sheaf of corn, as a reminder that even in the deepest darkness, there is a core of goodness that remains unchanged. As we begin to trace the lines of her celestial form, feel the connection between the starlight above and the quiet warmth within your own chest. The journey is not a distant one. It is a journey inward toward the part of you that still remembers the golden age, the part that knows how to rest without guilt and how to dream without fear. Allow your awareness to expand just a little further, feeling the immense scale of the sky and the comforting insignificance of our daily worries when measured against the life of a star. The vastness is not cold, it is a cradle. The history of the world is a long, slow river, and tonight you are simply a leaf floating on its surface, carried by a current of ancient wisdom toward a sea of perfect rest. Every breath you take is a step deeper into this landscape of memory, leaving the noise of the modern world far behind on the shore. The air is growing cooler now, that you are warm, cocooned in the knowledge that you belong to this history as much as any goddess or any star. The fields of the past are waiting for us, shimmering with a soft, ethereal glow, and all you have to do is let go and listen. You can almost see the first faint glimmer of those ancient fields now. A sea of gold waving under a moon that has never known the glow of electric lights. It is a world of pure sensory experience, where the rustle of the wind through the stalks is the only music, and the turning of the seasons is the only clock. As we move closer to that horizon, feel how your body becomes even heavier, sinking deeper into the supportive embrace of the earth. The transition is seamless, a soft blending of your reality and the mythic past. You are becoming part of the story, a quiet witness to the grace of the last goddess. The path ahead is lined with the silver dust of the Milky Way, and with every word, the world of the waking grows more distant, more blurred, until it is nothing more than a faint memory on the edge of a dream. We are entering the realm where history and sleep meet, where the maiden of the stars is waiting to show us the way back to the beginning of all things. The transition from the vastness of the stars to the quiet reality of your own breath is as natural and inevitable as the setting of the sun. As we stand together on the very threshold of this ancient story, let us first settle deeper into the quiet temple of the body. For it is through our senses that we truly begin to experience the soft, heavy texture of time. Imagine your breath now, not as a task to be performed or a function to be monitored, but as a soft, rhythmic tide returning to a moonlit shore after a long day at sea. With every inhale, feel the cool, silver air of the night entering your lungs, bringing with it a profound sense of clarity and inner expansion. It is a slow, effortless rise, like the lifting of a morning mist off the surface of a quiet, undisturbed lake. And as you exhale, imagine that tide receding slowly, pulling away from the sands of your thoughts, carrying with it every lingering remnant of the day's noise, every fragment of unfinished business, and every flicker of restless energy that might still be clinging to your mind. The breath flows out of you like a long, deep sigh of total relief, leaving behind a shore that is smooth, clean, and perfectly still. With each cycle of this internal tide, you are sinking deeper and deeper into a state of profound physical weightiness. Your body knows exactly what to do. It possesses an ancient, silent intelligence that understands the language of gravity and the necessity of rest. Feel the many points of contact where your form meets the supportive surface beneath you. Do not merely lie upon it, but allow yourself to truly melt into it, as if the boundaries between you and the bed are beginning to blur. Notice how the mattress rises with gentle strength to meet the natural curve of your spine, how it cradles the back of your head like a precious weight, and how it supports the heavy resting length of your limbs. It is an unwavering foundation, as solid and as dependable as the very earth itself. You are giving over all your weight to this support, releasing the last bits of muscular tension in your shoulders, letting your jaw go soft and heavy, and allowing the tiny, tired muscles around your eyes to finally go dark and still. There is a deep, primal comfort in this total surrender, a realization that for this duration, you are completely and utterly relieved of the burden of holding yourself up. As your physical form grows heavy and quiet, your inner senses begin to awaken to a different kind of landscape. Even though you are resting in the safety of the present, your mind starts to catch the faint drifting sense of a world-long path, carried on a breeze that travels across centuries. Inhale deeply and imagine the aroma of a late summer field in ancient Greece. Just as the golden sun has dipped below the distant horizon, the air is thick and comforting, with the scent of sun-warmed earth a grounding, loamy smell that speaks of ancient growth and quiet endurance. Intermingled with this is the toasted, nutty sweetness of ripening grain, the heavy stalks of wheat bowing their heads in the twilight under the weight of their own abundance. There is the delicate scent of wild thyme crushed underfoot somewhere in the shadows, and the sharp, clean fragrance of mountain pines cooling as the evening dew begins to fall. This is the sensory field of the Golden Age, a world that smells of harvest and eternal peace, where every breath is a form of nourishment and every breeze is a soft caress against the skin. Listen now, far beyond the immediate silence of your room, to the distant, rhythmic murmur of a river. It is a constant, low-frequency hum, the ancient sound of water moving endlessly over smooth, water-worn stones. This river does not hurry. It does not struggle against its banks. It flows with the patient inevitability of a dream moving toward the sea. Its sound is a layer of soft velvet draped over your consciousness, smoothing out the jagged edges of your awareness until you can no longer tell where your body ends and the cool air begins. You are dissolving into this environment, becoming a natural part of the landscape of the story. The sound of the water is a mirror to the quiet movement of the blood through your veins, a reminder that you are made of the same fundamental elements as the stars and the soil. You are not a stranger here. You are returning to a place your very DNA remembers, a place of total environmental harmony where man, goddess, and nature once breathed in a single, perfectly synchronized pulse. In this state of deep, heavy relaxation, a quiet and beautiful truth begins to reveal itself to you. In the busy, fractured light of the day, it is so easy to feel small, isolated, or overwhelmed by the vastness of the world around you. But here, in the cradle of the night, you can clearly see that you are never truly alone or insignificant. You are an essential, irreplaceable thread in a vast and gentle tapestry of existence that has been weaving itself since the beginning of time. Every breath you take is connected to the oxygen exhaled by the ancient towering forests. Every atom in your resting body was once forged in the white-hot heart of a dying star. You are a living part of the history of the earth, a witness to its long, slow cycles of rest and renewal. This realization does not bring a burden of responsibility, but rather a profound and liberating sense of belonging. You are exactly where you are meant to be, held within a cosmic order that is both unimaginably grand and infinitely tender. You are a small, precious part of a whole that is perfect in its design and eternal in its duration. Let this sense of belonging wash over you like a warm, slow current. Feel the mattress beneath you becoming even more supportive, almost as if it is an extension of the Earth's own ancient crust, lifting you up so that you may drift safely and effortlessly into the depths of the path. Your limbs feel like heavy, weathered wood sinking into the soft, cool moss of a dream that is just beginning to take shape. The boundaries of the modern world have now fully dissolved into the shadows. There are no clocks here, no digital glows, no echoes of the busy city streets. There is only the cool night air, the scent of the coming harvest, and the steady, rhythmic heartbeat of a world that is at perfect peace with itself. You are perfectly prepared now to cross the bridge of time, leaving the noise of the 21st century behind as if it were nothing more than a fleeting, unimportant thought. We are stepping back now, further and further, into an age where the earth was young and the air was charged with a different, more luminous kind of light. In this era, the seasons did not fight one another, and the ground gave its fruit freely without the need for toil or struggle. It was a time of perfect equilibrium, where the gods walked the mountain paths and the stars seemed close enough for a child to touch. As we move into this golden age, hold on to the comfortable heaviness of your body and the lightness of your spirit. The transition is soft and silent, like a single footstep on fallen leaves. The story of the maiden is beginning to take shape in the warm darkness, and you are there to see it, resting in the absolute safety of the eternal night, breathing in harmony with a world that has long since forgotten how to hurry. The golden fields are waving in the distance, calling you home to the beginning of the world. Long, long before the first faint shadow of sorrow ever touched the brow of humanity, the world lived in a state of absolute and unwavering harmony. This was the dawn of all things, an era so pure and so distant that it feels less like history and more like a half-remembered dream drifting on the very edge of our collective consciousness. In this time, which the ancient poets called the Golden Age, the earth was not a place of struggle or toil, but a lush, boundless garden that exhaled peace with every soft rustle of its leaves. There was no concept of before or after, no frantic race against the setting sun, and no lingering fear of what the turning of the calendar might bring. Time did not march. It drifted, circling slowly like a golden leaf caught in a gentle eddy of a crystal-clear stream. You can feel the warmth of that eternal afternoon even now, radiating from the rich soil of the past and soaking into your very bones, inviting you to set down every burden you have ever carried. In this perfect world, the air was perpetually sweet, carrying the scent of flowers that never wilted and fruit that grew heavy and ripe without the need for a single drop of sweat. There was no hunger, for the earth offered its abundance with a mother's effortless generosity. Imagine walking through a forest where the trees bow low, offering clusters of dark, honeyed grapes and figs so bursting with sweetness they stain the grass like fallen jewels. The rivers did not just carry water. They flowed with a richness that felt like liquid silk against the skin, cool and life-giving, teeming with silver fish that had never known the sharp sting of a hook. People did not hunt, for there was no violence in the heart of any living creature. The lion lay in the tall grass beside the lamb, their breaths mingling in the shared warmth of the sun, bound together by a peace so profound it silenced even the wind. Conflict was a language that had not yet been invented. There were no laws in the Golden Age, not because people were lawless, but because kindness was the only instinct they knew. Imagine a society where doors had no locks, for there was nothing to steal and no one who wished to take. Envy did not exist because every soul was full, satisfied by the simple beauty of the sunlight on the water and the comfort of a neighbor's smile. There were no borders, no walls, and no tall iron gates. The entire world was a single open home, and every stranger was merely a brother or sister met beneath a different tree. Words were spoken softly, carrying only truth and affection. And the silence between those words was never heavy or awkward. It was a shared sanctuary of understanding. You can almost hear those soft voices now, humming ancient melodies that vibrate at the same deep frequency as the stars. The beauty of this era was not just in the lack of suffering, but in the miraculous way that nature itself mirrored the goodness of the human heart. When a person felt joy, the sky seemed to deepen into a more brilliant shade of azure. When they rested, the very grass beneath them grew softer, weaving itself into a plush, fragrant carpet to cradle their weary limbs. The earth breathed with the people, pulsing in a slow, majestic rhythm that ensured nothing was ever out of balance. The mountains were not jagged barriers, but gentle giants that watched over the valleys with a protective gaze, their peaks dusted not with biting frost, but with a soft, glowing mist that caught the first rays of every morning. There was a sense of profound, unbreakable safety, a knowledge that the universe was fundamentally kind and that every living thing was cherished. The seasons did not clash or battle for dominance as they do now. Instead, they turned as softly as the pages of a beloved, well-worn book, each one blending into the next with a grace that was almost invisible. Spring did not end with a sudden heat. It ripened slowly into a long golden summer that felt like it would last forever. And when autumn arrived, it was not a season of decay, but a celebration of color, a time when the world turned to shades of copper, bronze, and deep amber, and the air turned crisp and invigorating. Winter was not a season of hardship, but a time of deep, restorative sleep, where the earth wrapped itself in a mantle of white silence and dreamed of the flowers to come. In the Golden Age, Even the darkness of night was not something to fear. It was a soft, velvet curtain drawn across the world to allow for the most nourishing rest, lit by a moon so large and bright, it felt like a second sun made of cool, white fire. Everything in this world had a place, and everything was in its place. There was no waste, no clutter, and no noise. Even the sounds of the golden age were designed for tranquility, the rhythmic thrum of bees moving through fields of clover, the distant, muffled chime of water hitting stone, and the low, musical sigh of the wind through the olive grove. As you listen to these echoes from the deep past, feel your mind becoming as clear and as still as a mountain pool. The complexities of your modern life, the schedules, the digital pulses, the endless streams of information, are entirely absent here. They have no power in this sanctuary. You are returning to the original state of being, a state of pure, uncomplicated existence, where the only requirement is to be present and to breathe. As the ages began to turn and the world grew older, this perfection became a memory, a high-water mark of what it means to live in total harmony. Yet even as the gold began to fade into silver, the core of that peace remained, anchored by the presence of the one who guarded it with the most devotion. This era was not just a collection of landscapes. It was a testament to a specific kind of grace. It was a world that needed a guardian who was as patient as the soil and as constant as the stars. Someone who could walk through the tall wheat and feel the heartbeat of the world beneath her feet, ensuring that even as things changed, the essence of justice and mercy would never truly vanish from the earth. It is here, in the heart of this shimmering, sun-drenched utopia, that we find her. She is standing at the edge of a field that stretches toward the horizon, her silhouette a soft contrast against the deepening gold of the afternoon. She is the maiden of the stars, the one who saw the world at its best and vowed to remember it forever. As we move closer to her, the air grows even stiller, and the scent of the harvest becomes even more intoxicating. We are ready now to step out of the landscape and meet the spirit who defined it. We are ready to see the face of Astraea, the goddess who carried the golden age in her heart. Even as she prepared to walk the long, winding path through the history of mankind, the earth is quiet, the shadows are long, and the last goddess is waiting for us to join her in the silence. As we drift deeper into the heart of this golden sanctuary, a figure begins to take shape against the soft amber glow of the horizon, emerging from the shimmering heat of the afternoon like a beautiful memory. This is Astraea, the celestial maiden, the one whose very name whispers of the silver stars from which she originally descended. Imagine her standing in the perfect center of a boundless field of wheat, her presence so harmonious with the earth that she seems to be a natural extension of the land itself. Her hair is like spun gold, long and flowing in impossible waves, catching the last honeyed rays of the sun and turning them into a radiant, shimmering halo that dances with every gentle scented breath of the wind. Her eyes, deep and incredibly clear, are the exact color of the sky just after a soft, cleansing rain, a translucent gray blue that holds a world of ancient wisdom and an infinite bottomless well of compassion. When she looks at the world, she does not see flaws, shadows, or imperfections. She sees the divine flickering light within every living cell, and her gaze alone is enough to make the most weary soul feel whole and significant once again. Astraea does not walk upon the earth so much as she glides through it with a weightless grace, her footsteps leaving no mark upon the delicate grass, as if she is infinitely careful not to disturb the smallest insect or the most fragile petal of a wild flower. She is the bringer of balance, the living, breathing embodiment of justice that is never harsh and mercy that is never strained. In the quiet villages of the Golden Age, whenever a tiny flicker of misunderstanding arose, or a heart grew heavy with the weight of unspoken sorrow, she would appear quietly, not with a scepter of cold power, but with a simple, open, and luminous hand. Watch her now in your mind's eye as she approaches two neighbors whose voices have risen in a rare, fleeting moment of discord. She does not speak in a booming voice of command or judgment. She simply places a cool, comforting hand upon their trembling shoulders. At her touch, the sharp heat of anger dissolves instantly like morning mist under a kind sun. The tension leaves their faces, replaced by a profound and sudden clarity. She reminds them, without uttering a single word, that they are part of the same ancient soil, the same cool air, and the same eternal starlight. Her healing power is not limited to the spirit. It flows into the very fabric of physical life with the ease of water. Imagine her kneeling beside a child who has fallen in the clover, or a traveler whose weary limbs are stiff with the long miles of a journey. As her slender fingers brush against their skin, a sensation of radiating warmth and silver light floods through their vein, mending what was frayed and soothing what was sore. It is a touch that carries the vibrant memory of the first dawn, a restorative energy that resets the body to its most perfect, restful state. To be near her is to feel a deep, cellular sigh of relief, as if every part of your being is finally being understood, seen, and cared for by the universe itself. You can feel that same healing energy now, flowing steadily through the narrative, inviting your own muscles to relax even further into the mattress, your own heart to beat with a steady, slow, and uncomplicated rhythm that matches the pulse of the earth. The natural world recognizes her as its queen, yet she remains its most humble and devoted servant. As she moves through the tall, ripening wheat, the stalks do not break or bend away in fear. Instead, they bow toward her in a slow, rhythmic wave of gold, as if acknowledging the one who ensures their steady growth and silent abundance. The birds of the air descend from the green canopy to rest upon her shoulders, their songs turning from frantic, busy chirps into long, melodic trills of absolute contentment. Even the great silent predators of the deep forest, the wolves and the lions, approach her with lowered heads and softened eyes, their wild spirits calmed by the aura of absolute safety and neutrality she radiates. There is a magnificent, silent agreement between Astraea and the earth, a pact of mutual respect that keeps the rivers flowing crystal clear and the seasons turning in their proper, beautiful order. She is the steady needle of the cosmic compass, always pointing toward what is true, what is fair, and what is infinitely kind. As the sun begins its slow, majestic descent toward the edge of the world, Astraea gathers the people around her beneath the sprawling, protective branches of an ancient silver oak tree. This is the sacred hour of stories, the time when her voice, soft as the rustle of expensive silk, fills the cooling evening air. She tells tales of the first dawn, of how the stars were once tiny seeds planted in the dark, fertile garden of the void, and how the earth was sung into existence by a choir of pure light. Her voice is not a tool for instruction or authority, but a vessel for peace. It has a frequency that vibrates in perfect harmony with the natural world, a sound that makes the restless leaves stop trembling and makes the gathering shadows feel like a warm, familiar embrace. As you listen to the faint echo of her words in your mind, let them pull you deeper into the velvet darkness of your own rest. Each syllable is a pale petal falling on still, dark water, creating ripples of calm that expand until they cover every hidden corner of your consciousness. In her presence, the very concept of time feels suspended, as if the golden age could stretch out into a beautiful eternity without end. You could stay here forever, watching the way the first starlight begins to twinkle in the deep folds of her gown, listening to the rhythmic, peaceful breathing of a world that knows no pain or scarcity. There is a sense of total completion here, a feeling that everything that ever needed to be done has already been finished perfectly. Astraea is the guardian of this stillness, the one who stands watch over your dreams, so that you may wander through them without a single flicker of fear. She represents the best of what we are, the capacity for unwavering kindness, the strength found in absolute gentleness, and the quiet, enduring beauty of a soul that is perfectly in balance with the wide universe. But even in this state of divine perfection, the great, invisible river of time continues its inevitable and silent flow. The universe is built upon cycles of growth and change, of rising and setting, and even the golden age must eventually give way to something new, something different. Astraea knows this deeply, for she can read the shifting, subtle patterns of the stars better than anyone who has ever lived. She feels the subtle cooling of the air, the slight, sharp darkening of the horizon that signals the end of one long chapter and the beginning of another. She does not fear the coming change, for she knows that light can never be truly destroyed, only transformed into another shape. Yet, there is a quiet, shimmering sadness in the way she looks at the golden fields one last time, knowing that the era of absolute, effortless harmony is beginning to ripple, distort, and fade. The golden light is starting to shift now, turning into a paler, more brittle, and more crystalline shade of silver. The air carries a new, unfamiliar scent, not of decay, but of a coming winter that will last much longer than a single season of the year. Astraea stands tall and graceful, her eyes reflecting the first few bright stars that pierced through the thickening twilight, her heart remaining a steady, heavy anchor in the face of the vast unknown. We are beginning to feel the very first tremors of the transition, the slow, tectonic movement from the age of gold to the age of silver. The world is changing its skin, and we must follow the maiden as she navigates the long shadows that are starting to lengthen across the paradise she has loved so well. The river is moving, the light is cooling, and the story is carrying us forward into the mist of the future. The maiden steps forward, and we step with her, deeper into the cooling night. The transition did not arrive with a sudden thunderclap or the violent arrival of a storm. It began instead as a barely perceptible cooling of the evening air, a subtle, invisible shift in the quality of the light that made the deep gold of the afternoon feel just a little more fragile, just a little more fleeting than it had been before. This was the long, slow twilight of the golden age, the quiet and inevitable ushering in of the age of silver. It felt like the long, lingering breath taken at the very end of a perfect day, when the sun has finally vanished below the horizon, and the first creeping chill of evening begins to seep into the ancient stones of the earth. The world remained beautiful, still vastly peaceful and wide, but the effortless warmth that had once permeated every leaf, every stone, and every human soul was beginning to pull back, retreating slowly into the deep, lengthening shadows of the ancient groves. You can feel this shift in the very pacing of the story now, a movement that remains slow and steady, but now carries a faint, rhythmic weight, like the sound of a distant, heavy bell tolling across a misty, silent valley. In this new and unfamiliar era, the first tiny seeds of impatience began to take root in the once fertile soil of the human heart. It was not a grand or sudden rebellion, but rather a series of small, quiet turnings away from the communal light. In the Golden Age, hospitality had been as natural and as unconscious as breathing. But now, a subtle cooling began to frost the delicate edges of human interaction. Imagine a traveler approaching a familiar hearth, only to find that the fire is kept a little lower than it was before, and the welcome, while still kind, is offered with a small fraction of hesitation that was never there in the old days. People began to notice the passing of time with a new, restless intensity that disturbed their rest. They started to count the passing days, to measure the weight of the harvests with worried eyes, and to wonder if the limitless abundance of the earth might one day come to an end. The pure, uncomplicated, now that had defined their entire existence, was being fractured by the first cold whispers of tomorrow. The harmony that had once felt like a solid, unbreakable diamond was now loosening its grip, held together by a single, invisible, and slowly fraying thread. You could see it in the way the wild animals began to retreat further into the deep, dark woods, their eyes reflecting a new and strange kind of caution. You could hear it in the wind, which no longer carried only the sweet scent of blooming flowers, but now bore the crisp, sharp edge of a coming frost. It was as if the entire universe had taken a collective, cautious indrawing of breath, waiting for a balance that had been tilted to finally find its center once again. This tension is not a threat to your safety. It is simply a change in the fundamental frequency of the world, a deeper, more melancholic note in the cosmic song. Let this deep note resonate within you, allowing it to ground you even further into the absolute stillness of your own rest. As you witness the world learning the bittersweet meaning of longing, Astraea felt this shift more deeply and more painfully than any other being on Earth. She could hear the first notes of discord in the vibration of the distant stars and feel the slow cooling of the earth beneath her bare silver feet. Watch her now as she wanders away from the busy, restless dwellings of men, seeking the quiet solace of a high mountain stream that remains untouched by the changing times. She kneels by the cold water, her long golden hair trailing in the current like strands of silk, and whispers quiet, unanswered questions to the murmuring flow. She asks the water where the warmth has gone, and why the hearts she once healed with a touch are beginning to build small, invisible walls around themselves. The stream does not answer her with words, but only with the steady, cold rhythm of its movement over the ancient rocks, a sound that is both a lament for the past and a lullaby for the future. Astraea's reflection in the water is slightly blurred and distorted now, rippling with a sadness that is as vast as the ocean, yet as quiet as a single falling leaf in a vast forest. As she sits there in the deepening, purple twilight, the goddess realizes that her role is beginning to transform in ways she never intended. She is no longer just the celebrant of human joy. She is becoming the guardian of human memory. She watches from the shadows as the first fences are built across the open land, not out of malice or hate, but out of a new and strange desire to possess, to define what is mine and what is thine. She sees the first locks being forged in the heat of the fire, small and crude, a physical manifestation of the growing emotional distance between souls. Her heart aches with a gentle, shimmering melancholy, a feeling that is not quite pain, but a deep and solemn recognition of the beauty of what is slowly passing away. It is the feeling of watching a magnificent sunset and knowing that the night will be long and cold, yet finding a strange, quiet peace in the absolute inevitability of the coming darkness. The nights began to grow noticeably longer, stretching their long, starry fingers further and further into the quiet mornings. The air grew heavier and more dense, thick with the scent of damp earth and the ozonic charge of coming storms that the golden age had never known. The light of the sun, once a constant and nourishing embrace that felt like a blessing, now felt distant, pale, and thin, like a single candle flickering in a vast, drafty hall. This heaviness is not a burden for you to carry. It is a blanket, a thickening of the atmosphere that encourages a deeper, more profound withdrawal from the world of action. Feel this weight settling over your own limbs now, a comfortable and reassuring pressure that pins you softly to the bed, matching the increasing density of the air in Astraea's changing world. The world is not ending. It is merely sighing, turning over in its long sleep as it moves from one dream into another. The Silver Age brings with it the difficult gift of reflection, the ability to truly appreciate the light, because we have finally understood the existence of the shadow. Astraea stands at the crossroads of these two great eras, her gown now reflecting the cooler, more somber and more silver tones of the rising moon. She is prepared to walk through the thickening mist, to remain the steady anchor of justice in a world that is slowly forgetting how to be still. The bridge between the ages is narrow and shrouded in gray fog, but her light remains steady and sure, a pale blue flicker that beckons us to follow her into the unknown. The air is cold, the stars are sharp and bright, and the story is pulling us deeper and deeper into the heart of the silver night. As the age of silver deepened and began to fracture into the harder, colder, and more jagged age of bronze, Astraea found herself working with a tireless, almost desperate devotion to balm the increasingly restless minds of a changing humanity. She moved through the darkening villages like a fading sunbeam, her presence now a stark and beautiful contrast to the long-growing shadows of the world. Her hands, once so luminous and quick to heal, now felt a persistent, spiritual heaviness. Yet she did not stop her quiet rounds. She spent her long nights moving from door to door, whispering ancient, half-forgotten songs of peace through the cracks in the weathered wood, hoping to reach the hearts that were fast becoming as cold and as unyielding as stone. She tried to mend the widening gaps between neighbors with the same gentle silver touch she had used in the Golden Age. But the resonance of the world was different now. The environment was becoming denser, louder, and far less inclined to listen to the soft, rhythmic frequency of a goddess. You can feel this profound exhaustion in the very air of the story now, a slow, rhythmic pulling of the tide that is no longer just relaxing, but deeply and fundamentally weary. She watched with a quiet, shimmering ache in her chest as the people who had once shared everything with open hearts began to guard their grain with narrowed eyes and suspicious, fearful hearts. Where there had once been boundless open fields and communal tables, there were now high walls, sharp fences, and averted gazes. When she walked down the familiar, dusty paths that she had known for eons, the children who used to run with laughter to meet her were now called hurriedly inside by parents who feared the stranger more than they loved the light. The hospitality that had once been the very bedrock of human existence was now a luxury that few felt they could afford to offer. Astraea stood in the center of the marketplace, her silver gown dusty from the road and her spirit bruised by the coldness she encountered at every turn. She saw the first iron blades being forged in the heat of the hearth, not for the purpose of the harvest, but for the purpose of protection. Their sharp, metallic ring, a harsh, discordant note that pierced the once perfect silence of the hills. The world was no longer a sanctuary. It was becoming a fortress. And in the narrow halls of a fortress, there is very little room for a maiden of the stars. The earth itself seemed to recognize the tragedy unfolding upon its ancient surface. The soil, which had once given its fruit with effortless and bountiful joy, now carried a strange, electric tension, as if the very ground were holding its breath, waiting for a cataclysmic change it could sense but could not prevent. The flowers bloomed with a muted, tired color, and the ancient trees groaned in the wind with a sound that felt like a collective, deep-seated lament for the lost gold of the past. The very dust beneath Astraea's bare feet felt different now, no longer warm, soft, and life-giving, but dry, brittle, and resistant to her grace. There was a profound sense that the spiritual contract between the land and its inhabitants had been broken by fear. The balance she had spent eons maintaining was tilting toward an abyss that even she, with all her celestial power, could not bridge. Feel this tension in the mattress beneath you, not as a threat to your peace, but as a deep, grounding weight, the feeling of the earth itself settling into its own inevitable and necessary transformation. One final, lonely night, Astraea climbed the highest peak of the jagged mountains she had once called home, seeking a final sign from the heavens she had left so long ago. She stood alone beneath a moon that was massive, pale, and utterly silent in the velvet sky. It was a moon that offered no comfort, no guidance, and no answers to her whispered, desperate prayers. Its cold white light washed over her in waves, reflecting the silver of her weary eyes and the deepening pallor of her skin. She looked down at the dark valleys below, where the small, flickering fires of men burned like lonely, isolated sparks in a vast and encroaching darkness. She realized then that her time as a physical dweller of the earth was finally coming to an end. She had stayed longer than any other deity, clinging to the flickering hope that the light of the golden age could be rekindled. But the darkness was now a tide that could not be turned back by a single tired hand. The silence of the mountain peak was absolute and heavy, a velvet cloak that wrapped tightly around her trembling shoulders. In this immense stillness, she felt a profound sense of total acceptance wash over her like a cool stream. It was not the bitter acceptance of defeat, but the quiet acceptance of a necessary and holy cycle. She understood at last that some truths, some forms of absolute purity, can no longer take root in a soil that has become too hardened by the weight of fear and the desire for possession. Just as the wheat must eventually be cut so that the field can rest beneath the winter snow, she understood that she must leave so that her essence could be preserved in a place where it would never be tarnished by the noise of the world. The ache in her heart did not vanish, but it softened into a beautiful melancholic glow. The same haunting glow you see on the horizon just before the sun disappears entirely into the sea. As she stood there at the edge of the world, the air around her began to vibrate with a new, celestial energy that felt like a homecoming. The weight of her physical form, the very body she had used to walk among mortals, began to feel like a garment that was simply too heavy and too worn to wear any longer. She looked down at her hands and saw that they were becoming translucent, the ancient starlight from above shining through her fingers as if she were made of nothing but glass and memory. The nights had grown so long and the air so heavy with the scent of coming storms that the boundary between the earth and the sky had begun to blur into a single indigo dream. She felt the pull of the distant stars, a rhythmic, magnetic calling that promised a return to the infinite and the eternal. The realization was as quiet and as certain as a falling star. She could no longer save the world by walking upon its dust, but perhaps she could save it by watching over its darkness from above. The bridge of light was forming beneath her feet, made of the very memories of the goodness she had witnessed throughout the ages. The transition was beginning, the slow, majestic, and effortless ascent from the dust of the final days to the eternal peace of the constellations. The earth below was fading into a blur of shadows and distant, lonely fires, and the maiden was finally completely ready to let go of her hold. She breathed in the cold, thin mountain air one last time, a long, slow inhale that tasted of the beginning and the end, and she prepared to rise into the waiting arms of the night. The soil had let her go, and the sky was opening its heart to receive her. As she reached the very edge of the highest, most silent peak, Astraea took her final, deliberate steps across the rugged earth she had loved with such a fierce and quiet devotion. The stone beneath her feet was no longer cold or harsh. It seemed to hum with a low, vibrating gratitude for her long present. She paused for a timeless moment, looking back one last time at the sprawling tapestry of the world below the dark, whispering forests, the silver threads of the rivers, and the quiet valleys where the echoes of the golden age still lingered like a faint perfume. There was no bitterness in her departure, only a profound, crystalline clarity. She breathed in the thin mountain air, and as she exhaled, the last of her earthly weight began to dissolve into the indigo mist of the night. You can feel this lightness spreading through your own body now, a gentle softening of the limbs, as if the gravity of your room is slowly losing its hold, allowing you to float in a space between wakefulness and the stars. The ascent was not a sudden leap, but a slow, majestic unfolding of being. As Astraea's feet left the granite surface of the peak, she did not rise like a bird, but rather drifted upward like a prayer carried by the wind. Her gown, once woven of earthly silver and mountain dust, began to ripple and change in the deepening cold of the upper atmosphere. It did not tear, it dissolved, the fabric fraying into glowing filaments of starlight and pale nebulas. The heavy folds of the cloth became plumes of cosmic dust, shimmering with shades of violet, gold, and deep celestial blue. She was shedding the skin of the mortal world, her very form expanding to meet the vastness of the heavens. Imagine the sensation of being completely unburdened, where every breath makes you lighter, and every thought is a spark of light joining a sea of brilliance. As she rose higher, the perspective shifted, turning the world below into a soft, blurred painting of shadows and memories. She did not abandon the people or the soil. She simply transformed the nature of her presence. Astraea did not leave us to darkness. She became our eternal witness, a silent guardian whose gaze is now wide enough to encompass the entire curve of the earth. From this height, the walls that men built, the borders they drew, and the fires they guarded seemed small and temporary, while the light she carried was infinite and enduring. She was moving from the realm of the tangible to the realm of the eternal, becoming the very standard by which balance would forever be measured. Feel the comfort of this transformation, the realization that protection does not always come from a hand you can touch, but often from a light that never goes out. The world beneath her began to soften and recede into a beautiful, quiet insignificance. The jagged mountains she had climbed now looked like nothing more than ripples in a dark velvet cloak, and the thick banks of clouds below were like tufts of white wool drifting in a midnight sea. Everything that had felt heavy, urgent, or loud on the ground was now muted, softened by distance and the immense cooling peace of the vacuum. The air was gone, replaced by the pure, silent energy of the void, a space that is not empty, but filled with the humming potential of the universe. In this place, there is no noise, no friction, and no resistance. There is only the slow, rhythmic turning of the world and the steady, unwavering pulse of the stars. You are watching this from the same vantage point, letting the details of your own life soften into shadow, becoming as distant and as peaceful as the valleys below. Astraea's form continued to expand until she was no longer a maiden walking through the sky, but a vast figure of light stretched across the entire northern hemisphere. Her arms became the reaches of the galaxy, her hair the trailing tail of comets, and her heart the bright, steady center of a new constellation. She was weaving herself into the very fabric of the night, taking her place among the ancient archetypes that guide the souls of men. The transition was complete. She had shed the last flicker of her earthly sorrow and stepped fully into her celestial destiny. The maiden of the fields was now the maiden of the stars, a permanent anchor of grace in a universe that never stops moving. The silence here is profound, a deep, resonant hum that vibrates through the very core of your being. It is the sound of the universe at rest, the frequency of total equilibrium. Astraea has found her throne, not made of gold or stone, but made of time and light. She looks down upon us with eyes that have seen the beginning and the end, and in her gaze there is only peace. The weight of the world is far below us now, a dark and beautiful jewel spinning in the silence. We are resting here with her in the high, cold, and perfect stillness of the heavens, where the light is older than time and the shadows are as soft as a mother's touch. The bridge between the earth and the sky has finally closed, leaving us in a realm of pure, shimmering starlight. We have followed the goddess to her final home, and in doing so, we have found a place where our own spirits can finally expand and rest. The journey upward has ended, but the story of her light is only beginning to reveal its deeper truths. As we settle into the velvet cradle of the constellations, the stars themselves seem to lean in closer, whispering the secrets of the harvest and the patterns of the coming ages. We are safe, we are weightless, and we are exactly where we need to be. The maiden is in her place, and the night is hers to guard. As the final, shimmering echoes of her long ascent fade into the deep velvet depths of the cosmos, a new and profoundly enduring light takes hold in the ancient northern sky. This is the birth of Virgo, the celestial maiden, who is no longer a weary traveler of the dusty earthly roads, but a permanent and radiant inhabitant of the infinite. She has taken her rightful place among the stars, not as a distant or detached observer, but as a devoted guardian who remains forever connected to the slow, rhythmic pulses of the world she once walked and loved so well. High above the silent, sleeping continents, she stretches across the dark, vast expanse, her form traced in a delicate silver fire, forever watching over the fields, the deep forests, and the quiet, darkened homes of men. She is the anchor of the harvest, the patron of that sacred transition between the fading heat of summer and the introspective, healing cool of the autumn. When you look up at her now, or simply hold her steady image in your mind's eye, you are looking at a promise kept, a reminder that even when the world below feels loud, chaotic, or heavy, there is a vast and quiet order that remains entirely undisturbed and eternally patient. In the long, majestic cycles of the year, her appearance in the night sky serves as a silent, luminous signal to the earth itself. During the time of the harvest, when the days grow short and the air begins to carry the very first scent of frost, Virgo rises in her full, shimmering majesty. She stands as a quiet reminder of the justice, balance, and mercy she once brought to the world during the Golden Age. To the farmers of old, her silver presence was a blessing upon the ripening grain. To us, in this modern moment, her presence is a profound blessing upon our rest. She represents the ancient and beautiful idea that there is a time for toil and a time for stillness, a time for growth and a time for deep, restorative, and uninterrupted sleep. She holds her golden sheaf of wheat, a bright, singular star, Spica, as a symbol of the abundance that comes only when we choose to live in harmony with the natural, slow laws of the universe. Feel this sense of perfect balance settling into your own spirit now, the absolute equilibrium of a life that knows exactly when to let go and simply exist in the soft, cooling glow of the night. The light of Virgo does not shine to command us, to judge our actions, or to demand our waking attention. It remains there, steady, soft, and sure, simply to remind us of what is eternally possible. Her light is a quiet whisper traveling across the vastness of light years, suggesting that the qualities she once embodied, patience, kindness, and an unwavering silver grace, are never truly lost, but have merely moved to a higher, more permanent vantage point. She is the eternal witness to our human history, a celestial mirror reflecting the best and most peaceful parts of the human soul back down to us through the cooling darkness. When the world feels heavy or complicated, her steady silver glow reminds us that we are part of something much larger, a magnificent cosmic tapestry where every single thread is held with infinite care. Her presence is a form of quiet, wordless companionship that requires no effort from you, a steady pulse of ancient light that says, without a sound, that I am here and you are completely safe. There is a magnificent, quiet grace in the stars of Virgo, for they are stars that never hurry and never falter. They do not flicker with the restless, frantic energy of the world below. They burn with a slow, deliberate, and calm intensity that has remained unchanged for millions of years. They move through the heavens with a majestic and patient pace, tracing the same ancient silver paths night after night, and century after century. As you contemplate this immense celestial pace, feel your own internal clock slowing down, bit by bit, to match it. The urgency of your day, the pressure of the passing minutes, and the noise of the busy hours are all dissolving into the vast, slow, and rhythmic turning of the galaxy. You are entering the time of the stars, a dimension of existence where 1,000 years is but a single, deep breath, and where the only requirement of you is to be still and to be held. The maiden in the sky is not a figure of cold, distant myth, but a living and breathing part of the night's very architecture. She is the high, protective roof of our sanctuary, the silver stitching in the heavy velvet blanket of our dream. Her light is as constant as the deep tides of the ocean, and as reliable as the arrival of the dawn. Even when the thick clouds of the world obscure our view, we know with certainty that she is there, holding her scales of justice and her wheat of abundance, maintaining the invisible and sacred balance of the world. This is the profound comfort of the maiden tree. Steady glow the knowledge that some things are too beautiful and too true to ever truly vanish from existence. They simply change their shape and their frequency, moving from the dust of the earth to the light of the sky so that they can be seen and felt by everyone, everywhere, at all times. Let the image of this celestial guardian wash over you like a warm tide, providing a sense of eternal, unshakable safety that reaches down into the very center of your being. You are lying here beneath her watchful gaze, protected by the very same light that once guided the ancient philosophers and the first dreamers of the world. The air around you is charged with the same silver peace that radiates from her distant stars. The darkness is no longer a cold or empty space, but a full, rich, and nurturing presence. A garden of deep shadow where the seeds of tomorrow's strength and clarity are being quietly tended while you sleep. You are an essential part of this long legacy, a quiet participant in the magnificent history of the night. As we rest here together, looking up at the maiden who watches over us all, we begin to feel a subtle and beautiful resonance within ourselves. The light of Virgo is not just something we see from a distance. It is something we carry within us. We look at the reflection of this steady silver light in the quiet chambers of our own hearts, finding there the same capacity for balance, the same potential for grace, and the same deep, ancient need for rest. The story of the last goddess is not just a tale of a deity who left the earth behind. It is the story of a light that finally found its true home in the heavens, so that it could forever illuminate the path back to our own inner peace. We are breathing with the stars now, our hearts beating in perfect time with the silent music of the spheres, as we prepare to move even deeper into the magnificent mysteries of the cosmos. The maiden is in her place, the night is perfectly still, and you are exactly where you are meant to be. To look up at the ancient stars of Virgo is to recognize a deep and quiet reflection of something etched within the very fabric of your own soul. Astraea did not just leave behind a silver constellation for us to map. She left behind an enduring archetype, a profound pattern of being that many of us carry through the loud, waking world like a small, invisible flame. This is the magnificent gift and the heavy, silent burden of sight, that innate and tireless ability to notice the smallest, most delicate details that everyone else might miss in their hurry. You know exactly what it is to see the single leaf that is turning brown too early in the spring, to hear the subtle, hidden discord in a loved one's tired voice, or to feel the invisible sharp weight of a room that has fallen out of balance. Like the celestial maiden of the ancient harvest, you possess a heart that naturally and instinctively seeks to organize, to heal, and to bring a sense of divine, quiet order to the scattered, and messy pieces of the world. It is a beautiful, sacred quality, this capacity to care so deeply for the precision and the harmony of life. Yet it is also a quality that can leave the spirit feeling immensely, profoundly tired at the end of a long and demanding day. As you lie here now, in the absolute stillness of the night, take a moment to simply acknowledge the quiet, persistent weight of seeking perfection. There is an exhaustion that comes from being the one who always notices what needs to be done, the one who constantly anticipates the needs of others before they are even whispered, and the one who tirelessly strives to keep the memory of the golden age alive in a world that often feels fractured and cold. You have spent so many long hours tilling the heavy fields of your own responsibilities, ensuring that every grain of effort is accounted for and every scale of justice is perfectly balanced. This silent service to the world, this unwavering devotion to getting it right, is a noble and high path. But it is also a path that requires a great deal of your own precious internal light. Feel the tension of that constant striving beginning to melt away now, starting at the very crown of your head and flowing like warm silk down through your neck, your shoulders, and your spine. You are being given absolute permission here in the total safety of the deep night to finally set down the burden of being the guardian of the world. There is a profound and hidden beauty in the realization that even Astraea herself had to eventually leave the earth to find her true peace. Even a goddess understood that there must come a moment when the striving must end and the quiet observation must begin. We often believe, deep down, that for something to be worthy, it must be entirely flawless, that our lives, our homes, and our hearts must be as symmetrical and as bright as the distant stars themselves. But the secret that the night whispers to us is far different and far more kind. Some things are beautiful precisely because they are flawed, precisely because they carry the honest marks of their struggle and the unique weathered texture of their own history. A field of ripening wheat is not beautiful because every single stalk is identical. It is beautiful because of the way it undulates together in the wind, with all its varying heights, its leaning shadows, and its occasional tangled wildness. You too are beautiful in your vast complexity, in your unfinished stories, and even in the parts of yourself that you feel are currently out of balance or incomplete. Allow yourself to sink even deeper into the heavy comfort of your own imperfection. The relentless pressure to be the healer, the fixer, the reliable one, or the perfect witness is a garment you can now slide off your tired shoulders and leave behind on the cold floor of the waking world. Here, in the indigo shadows of this room, you do not have to be anything at all. You are not a project to be completed, a task to be managed, or a problem to be solved. You are a living, breathing, and precious being, as much a fundamental part of nature as the moon or the turning tide. And nature does not ask for perfection, it only asks for your presence. Trust now that the world can continue to turn without your help for these next few hours of the night. The rivers will continue to flow toward the sea. The stars will maintain their slow, majestic, and ancient dance, and the earth will keep its steady, rhythmic pulse, all without a single thought or a single effort from your weary mind. Imagine the immense and liberating relief of letting the universe take the wheel for a while. Feel the mattress beneath you as the steady hand of the earth, vast and unshakable, carrying you through the silence of space at thousands of miles an hour while you simply lie still and breathe. You have done more than enough. You have seen enough for one day. You have cared enough for a lifetime. Now is the sacred time for the burden of sight to be replaced by the grace of simply being. Let your eyes rest in the total darkness, no longer searching for what is out of place or what needs to be fixed, but simply accepting the velvet void exactly as it is. Your worth is not measured by your utility, your productivity, or your ability to maintain the balance for others. Your worth is inherent, as certain as the white light of the star Spica, and as ancient as the silver dust of the cosmos. As you drift further and further into this state of total emotional acceptance, notice how the boundaries of your own self-reflection begin to soften and expand. You are moving beyond the personal, beyond the cluttered memories of the day, and toward a much wider and more peaceful horizon. The warmth of your own steady heartbeat is slowly sensing with the cool, rhythmic, and low-frequency hum of the universe. The transition is subtle and seamless, like one color bleeding into another at the very edge of a long sunset. We are moving away from the intimate, narrow chambers of the human heart, with all its beautiful longings and its quiet, private aches, and we are moving toward the vast, silent, and magnificent theater of the bright, cold, and eternal stars. The air around you feels lighter and thinner now, stripped of the heavy density of human concerns and earthly worries. You are becoming as transparent and as weightless as Astraea was on that final mountain peak, your spirit preparing to leave the heavy, clinging soil behind for a while. The story of your life is folding its pages with a soft rustle, making room for the grand, silent story of the galaxy. We are stepping out of the small, crowded rooms of our own minds and into the great, dark cathedral of the night, where the light is millions of years older than our current sorrows, and the silence is much deeper than any of our questions. The stars are calling to us now, not to our intellect or our logic, but to our very essence, inviting us to join them in a realm where the words perfect and imperfect have no meaning at all. There is only light, only distance, and only the infinite cooling peace of the great void. We are crossing the bridge now, leaving the dying warmth of the hearth for the brilliant, silver, and absolute clarity of the deep sky. Night is here, and the stars are waiting for you to join their stillness. Now, let your consciousness drift further still, leaving the thin atmosphere of the earth behind and stepping fully into the vast, silent theater of the deep cosmos. We focus our inner gaze on Spica, the brilliant blue-white sun held forever in the hand of the celestial maiden. This is not a mere point of light, but a binary sun of immense and terrifying power, burning with a heat and intensity that defies all human comprehension. Spica sits 250 light-years away from your bed. Imagine that staggering distance. The silver light you see in your mind tonight began its lonely journey across the freezing vacuum of space over 2 centuries ago, long before your great-grandparents were born, traveling at 186,000 miles every single second. As you contemplate this immense span of time and space, feel the last remnants of your ego begin to dissolve. Your worries, your name, and the very day you just lived are but microscopic flickers in the face of such ancient, unwavering brilliance. You are becoming a silent observer, a speck of starlight drifting in an infinite ocean of absolute peace. But Spica is merely the gateway to a much larger story. Beyond this single star lies the Virgo cluster, a titanic city of light composed of over 1,300 individual galaxies, all bound together by the invisible, ancient threads of gravity. These galaxies, each containing billions of suns and countless hidden worlds, are turning in a slow, majestic silence that has lasted for billions of years. They are 55 million light-years away from where you lie. The scale is so vast that the human mind simply cannot hold it. It is a number too large to calculate, a distance too deep to fathom. Let this cognitive fatigue wash over you like a cold, soothing wave. Your brain, weary from a day of solving small problems, finally surrenders to the sheer magnificence of the unknown. You do not need to understand it. You only need to drift within it. In this immense span of time and space, there is no room for anxiety or fear, for you are part of a celestial mechanism that is perfect, eternal, and completely indifferent to the frantic pace of human life. Our lives are but sparks, tiny, beautiful, and brief, occurring within the long, slow exhale of the universe. There is a profound and lasting peace in this insignificance. You are not responsible for the turning of the spheres. You are not required to maintain the balance of the galaxies. You are simply a passenger on a small blue world, tucked safely into a quiet corner of a galaxy that is, itself, a tiny part of a much larger, magnificent whole. The stars will wait, patient and unchanged, through the long, dark hours of the night, and they will still be there, burning with their steady silver light, long after we wake to the sun. Feel the weightlessness of this truth. You are free to let go, to sink into the dark velvet of the void, and to disappear into the rhythmic, low-frequency humming of the cosmic night. The journey through history and starlight is slowing down to a crawl. The images are blurring at the edges, and the light of the Virgo cluster is fading into a soft, indigo glow. You are ready now for the final, deep rest, the journey through the golden age and the silver, winding paths of the stars has brought us back to this final moment of absolute profound stillness. I hope this sanctuary of history and ancient myth has provided the deep peace your spirit deserves. The story of Astraea and the maiden in the sky is now woven into the very fabric of your dreams, a quiet, eternal guardian to watch over you until the sun returns to the horizon. You are always welcome back to this sacred clearing in time. Tomorrow, when the world grows loud again and the weight of the day begins to press upon you, remember that this sanctuary is always here, waiting for you. This ritual of rest is yours to reclaim every night, a doorway that is always open whenever you need to slip away from the noise and return to the silence of the stars. The story ends here, but the stars themselves remain. They are watching over you now, their light a steady, silver blessing upon your closed eyes and your resting heart. The room is dark, the world is quiet, and the journey is complete. There is nothing left to hear, nothing left to do, and nothing left but the deep, dark pull of sleep. Shh! Let the darkness take you now. Sweet, deep dreams. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Stillness, night.